Act 1 of Cleone, a Tragedy. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Joshua Seeger in Chicago. Cleone, a Tragedy by Robert Dodsley. Act 1. Prologue by William Melmoth, Esquire. 'Twas once the mode inglorious war to wage, with each bold bard that durst attempt the stage, and prologues were but preludes to engage. Then mourned the muse not storied woes alone, condemned to weep with tears unfeigned her own. Past are those hostile days, and wits no more one undistinguished fate with fools deplore. No more the muse laments her long-felt wrongs from the rude license of tumultuous tongues. In peace each bard prefers his doubtful claim, and as he merits, meets, or misses, fame. 'Twas thus in Greece, when Greece fair science blessed, and heaven-born arts their chosen land possessed. Th' assembled people sate with decent pride, patient to hear, and skilful to decide. Less forward far to censure than to praise, unwillingly refused the rival bays. Yes, they whom candour and true taste inspire, blame not with half the passion they admire. Each little blemish with regret descry, but mark the beauties with a raptured eye. Yet modest fears invade our author's breast, with Attic lore or Latian all unblessed, denied by fate through classic fields to stray, where bloom those wreaths which never know decay, where arts new force from kindred arts acquire, and poets catch from poets genial fire. Not thus he boasts the breast humane to prove, and touch those springs which generous passions move, to melt the soul by scenes of fabled woe, and bid the tear for fancied sorrows flow. Far humbler paths he treads in quest of fame, and trusts to nature what from nature came. Dramatis Personae. Siffroy, a general officer. Beaufort, Senior, father of Cleone. Beaufort, Junior, her brother. Paulet, the friend of Siffroy. Glanville, a near relation. Rogozin, a servant corrupted by Glanville. Cleone, the wife of Siffroy. Isabella, her companion. A child about 5 years old. Officers of justice, servants, etc. Scene, Siffroy's house and an adjoining wood. Time, that of the action. Cleone, Act 1, Scene 1. A room in Siffroy's house. Enter Glanville and Isabella. Glanville. What means this diffidence, this idle fear? Have I not given thee proof my heart is thine? Proof that I mean to sanctify our joys by sacred wedlock? Why then doubt my truth? Why hesitate? Why tremble thus to join in deeds which justice and my love to thee alone inspire? If we are one, our hopes, our views, our interests ought to be the same. And canst thou tamely see this proud Siffroy, triumphant lord it o'er my baffled rights? Those late acquired domains, by partial hand consigned to him, in equity are mine. Isabella. The story oft I've heard. Yet sure Siffroy hath every legal title to that wealth by will bequeathed. And childless, should he die, the whole were thine. Wait then till time. Glanville. Art thou, my Isabella, thou an advocate for him whose hand, with felon arts, withholds those treasures which I covet but for thee? Where is thy plighted faith, thy vows, thy truth? Isabella. Forbear reproach. O Glanville, love to thee hath robbed me of my truth, seduced me on from step to step, till virtue quite forsook me. False if I am, 'tis to myself, not thee. Thou hast my heart, and thou shalt guide my will, obedient to thy wishes. Glanville. Hear me then. This cursed Siffroy stands in my fortune's way. I must remove him. Well I know his weakness. His fiery temper favors my design, and aids the plot that works his own undoing. Yet whilst far off removed, he leads our troops, the nation's doughty chief. He stands secure, beyond the reach of my avenging hand. But this will force him home. I have conveyed by Rogozin his servant, whom I sent on other business, letters which disclose his wife's amour with Paulet. Isabella. Ah, though me thou hast convinced, and I believe her false, think'st thou Siffroy will credit the report? Will not remembrance of her seeming truth, her artful modesty and acted fondness, secure the easy confidence of love? Glanville. I know it ought not. Weak must be the man who builds his hopes on such deceitful ground. Paulet is young, not destitute of passion. Her husband absent, they are off together. Then she hath charms to warm the coldest breast, melt the most rigid virtue into love, and tempt the firmest friendship to be frail. All this I've urged, joined with such circumstance, such strong presumptive proof as cannot fail to shake the firm foundations of his trust. This once accomplished, his own violence and heated rage will urge him to commit some desperate act, and plunge him into ruin. Isabella. But grant thou shouldst succeed, what will ensue? Suppose him dead, doth he not leave an heir, an infant son, that will prevent thy claim? Glanville. That bar were easily removed. But soft, who's here? 'Tis Rogozin returned. Enter Rogozin. Scene 2. Glanville, Rogozin, and Isabella. Glanville. What news, dear Rogozin? How did Siffroy receive my letters? Speak, my vast impatience would know all at once. What does his rage intend? Rogozin. All you could wish. A whirlwind is but weak to the wild storm that agitates his breast. At first, indeed, he doubted, swore 'twas false, impossible. But as he read, his looks grew fierce, pale horror trembled on his cheek. Oh, she is vile! It must be so. Glanville is just, is good, and scorns to wrong her. I know his friendship, know his honest heart. Then falling, sobbed in speechless agony. Glanville. Good, very good. I knew 'twould gall. Proceed. Rogozin. His smothered grief at length burst forth in rage. He started from the floor, he drew his sword, and fixing it with violence in my grasp, plunge this, he cried, oh, plunge it in the heart of that vile traitor, Paulet. Yet forbear, that exquisite revenge my own right hand demands, nor will I give it to another. This said, pushed on by rage, he to her sire dispatched a letter, opening to him all her crime and his dishonor. This to you. Gives a letter. Glanville. How eagerly he runs into the toils which I have planted for his own destruction. Dear Rogozin, success shall double all my promises, and now we are embarked, we must proceed, whatever storms arise. Isabella. But read the letter. Glanville opens the letter and reads. Though thou hast stabbed me to the heart, I cannot but thank thy goodness for the tender regard thou hast shown to my honor. The traitor Paulet shall die by my own hand. That righteous vengeance must be mine. Meantime, forbid the villain's entrance to my house. As to her who was once my wife, let her go to her father's, to whom I have written, leaving it to him to vindicate her virtue, or conceal her shame. I am in too much confusion to add more. Siffroy. This is enough. By heaven, I sought no more. It is the point at which my wish is aimed. The death of Paulet must include his own. Justice will take that life my injuries seek, nor shall suspicion cast one glance on me. But does he purpose soon to leave the army? Or let his vengeance sleep? Rogozin. All wild he raves. That honor should forbid to quit his charge. Yet what resolves the tumult in his breast may urge is hard to say. Glanville. We must prepare for his arrival. Well I know his rage will burst all bounds of prudence. Thou, my friend, for from the hour which shall complete our business, thy servitude shall cease, be diligent to watch all accidents, and well improve whatever chance may rise. Ragozin. Trust to my care. Exit Ragozin. Glanville. Now, Isabella, now the important hour to prove my truth arises to my wish. No longer shalt thou live the humble friend of this Cleone, but her equal born, shalt rise by me to grace an equal sphere. Isabella. Her equal born I am, nor can my heart a keener pang than base dependence feel. Yet, weak by nature, and in fear for thee, I tremble for the event. O, shouldst thou fail— Glanville. To me, my Isabella, trust the proof of her concealed amour. I know full well her modesty is mere disguise, assumed to cheat the world. But it deceives not me. I shall unveil her latent wickedness, and on her midnight revels pour the day. Isabella. Scarce can my heart give credit— Glanville. Thou, alas, art blinded by the semblance she displays of truth and innocence, but I explore her inmost soul, and in her secret thoughts read wantonness. Believe me, this gay youth, masked in the guise of friendship to Siffroy, is her vile paramour. But I forget. Tell Ragozin, my love, to wait without. This business asks dispatch, and I may want his useful aid. Isabella. I go, but still my heart beats anxious, lest the truth of thy suspicions should fail of proof. Exit Isabella. Glanville. Fear nothing, I'm secure. Fond, easy fool, whom for my use alone, not pleasure, I've ensnared. Thou little dream'st that, fired with fair Cleone's heaven of charms, I burn for their enjoyment. There too did this Siffroy, this happy-hated rival, defeat the first warm hopes that fired my bosom. I marked her beauties rising in their bloom, and purposed for myself the ripening sweetness. But ere my hand could reach the tempting fruit, 'twas ravished from its eager grasp. And oh, would fate at last permit me to prevail, vengeance were satisfied. I will attend her, and urge my suit, though oft repulsed, once more. If she's obdurate still, my slighted love converts to hatred. I will then exert the power which her deluded lord hath given, drive her this instant hence, and in her flight, to glut my great revenge, she too shall fall. Exit Glanville. Scene 3. Changes to another room. Enter Cleone and a servant. Cleone. Paulet, my husband's friend, give him admittance. His friendship sympathizes with my love, cheers me by talking of my absent lord, and soothes my heart with hopes of his return. Enter Paulet. Paulet. Still do these lowering clouds of sorrow shade Cleone's brow, and sadden all her hours? Cleone. Ah, Paulet, have I not just cause to mourn? 3 tedious years have passed since these sad eyes beheld my dear Siffroy, and the stern brow of horrid war still frowns upon my hopes. Paulet. The fate of war, 'tis true, hath long detained my noble friend from your fond arms and mine. But his redoubted sword by this last stroke must soon reduce the foe to sue for peace. The gallant chief who led the barbarous host, and was himself their soul, is fallen in battle, slain by the valiant hand of your Siffroy. Cleone. To me, alas, his courage seems no virtue. Dead to all joy but what his safety gives, to every hope but that of his return, I dread the danger which his valor seeks, and tremble at his glory. O good heaven, restore him soon to these unhappy arms, or much I fear they'll never more enfold him. Paulet. What means Cleone? No new danger can affright you for my friend. I fear your breast beats with the dread of some impending ill threatening yourself. Now, by the love that binds my heart to your Siffroy, let me entreat, if my assistance can avail you aught, that, to the utmost hazard of my life, you will command my service. Cleone. Kind heaven, I thank thee. My Siffroy hath yet one faithful friend. O Paulet, but to thee the many virtues that adorn the mind of my loved lord, and made me once so blessed, 'twere needless to display. In mine alone his happiness was placed. No grief, no care came ever near my bosom, not a pain but what his tenderness partaking soothed. All day with fondness would he gaze upon me, and to my listening heart repeat such things as only love like his knew how to feel. O my Siffroy, when wilt thou return? Alas, thou knowest not to what bold attempts thy unsuspecting virtue has betrayed me. Paulet. What danger thus alarms Cleone's fear? Cleone. I am ashamed to think, and blush to say, that in my husband's absence this poor form, these eyes, or any feature should retain the power to please. But Glanville, will you know? Paulet. Sure you suspect not him of base designs? He wears the semblance of much worth and honour. Cleone. So to the eye the speckled serpent wears a shining beauteous form. But deep within foul stings and deadly poisons lurk unseen. O Paulet, this smooth serpent hath so crept into the bosom of Siffroy, so wound himself about my love's unguarded heart, that he believes him harmless as a dove. Paulet. Good heaven, if thou abhorrest deceit, why suffer a villain's face to wear the look of virtue? Who would have thought his loose desires had flown so high a pitch? Have you imparted aught of his attempts to Isabella? Cleone. No. Paulet. I had suspicion his designs were there. Cleone. I've thought so too, nay, have some cause to fear that she's his wife. This hath restrained my tongue. Paulet. 'Tis well if she deserve your tenderness. But say, Cleone, let me know the means which this most impious man, this trusted friend, hath taken to betray. Cleone. I hear his voice, and this way he directs his hated steps. Retire into that room. He seldom fails to hint his bold desires. Yourself perhaps may thence detect him, and by open shame deter him from persisting. Paulet goes into the room. Enter Glanville. Glanville. I greet you, lady, with important news. The Saracens are beaten. Yet Siffroy, coldly neglectful of your blooming charms, pursues a remnant of the flying foe to strong Avignon's walls, where sheltered safe the hardy troops may bear a tedious siege. Why then, Cleone, should you still resist the soft entreaties of my warm desire? Methinks the man but ill deserves your truth, who leaves the sweet Elysium of your arms to tread the dangerous fields of horrid war. Cleone. And what, O Glanville, what dost thou deserve? Thou, who with treachery repayst the trust of sacred friendship? Thou, who but to quench a loose desire, a lawless passion's rage, wouldst banish truth and honour from thy breast? Glanville. Honour? What's honour? A vain phantom raised, to fright the weak from tasting those delights, which nature's voice, that law supreme, allows. Be wise, and laugh at all its idle threats. Besides, with me your fame would be secure. Discretion guards my name from censure's tongue. Cleone. And dost thou call hypocrisy discretion? Say'st thou that vice is wisdom? Glanville, hear me. With thee, thou sayest, my fame would be secure, unsullied by the world? It might. Yet no, though hid beneath the centre of the earth, removed from envy's eye and slander's tongue, nay, from the view of heaven itself concealed, still would I shun the very thought of guilt, nor wound my secret conscience with reproach. Glanville. Romantic all! Come, come, why were you formed so tempting fair? Why graced with every charm, with eyes that languish, limbs that move with grace? Why were these beauties given you? But to soothe the sweet, the strong sensations they excite. Why were you made so beauteous, yet so coy? Offers to embrace her. She puts him by with disdain. Cleone. Base hypocrite! Why rather wert thou suffered beneath fair virtue's mien to hide a heart so vile? Why this, good heaven? But dost thou think thy foul devices shall be still concealed? Siffroy shall know thee. Thy detested crime shall stand revealed in all its horrid form. Glanville. Is love a crime? Oh, ask your feeling heart. Paulet bursts from the room. Paulet. Villain, desist! Glanville. Ha! Paulet here. 'Tis well. He is her minion then. 'Tis as I guessed. My letters to Siffroy traduced them not. Paulet. Vile hypocrite! What, lurk such warm desires beneath that sober mask of sanctity? Is this the firm, undoubted honesty in which Siffroy, confiding, sleeps secure? Glanville. And is it fit that thou shouldst lecture vice? Thou who, even here, this moment, wert concealed, the favourite object of lewd privacy? Shouldst thou declaim against the rich repast thy gluttonous appetite alone enjoys to all the heights of luxury? Sweet lady, who now shall stand revealed before Siffroy? But I have long, long known your intercourse, nor wanted clearer proof to speak your crimes. Glanville is going. Cleone. O heaven and earth! Paulet. Stay, monster! By high heaven, thy life shall answer this vile calumny. Glanville. Dream not, I fear. Thy threatening I despise. Soon I'll return to thine and her confusion. Exit Glanville. Cleone. What have I done? Unhappy, rash concealment! This may, alas, give colour to his charge. Paulet. He dares not wrong you with the least surmise, the slightest imputation on your fame, nor would the world believe him. Your fair deeds, the constant tenor of your virtuous life, would triumph o'er the audacious tale. Cleone. Ah, Paulet, the sting of slander strikes her venom deep. An envious world with joy devours the tale that stains with infamy a spotless name. Yet what's the vain opinion of the world? To keep one voice, one single heart's esteem is all my wish. If my Siffroy but think... Paulet. Wound not your peace with vain ungrounded fears. My friend is noble, knows your virtues well, nor will he suffer jealousy to shake his generous mind with doubt. And for that wretch, this arm shall give him chastisement. Cleone. Ah, no. I fear the chastisement of Glanville's guilt may loose the tongue of censure on my innocence. And can I bear, now, in my husband's absence, the whispered falsehood of malicious tales that cast a doubt on his Cleone's truth? O rather leave his punishment to heaven. At least defer it till my lord's return. Paulet. And shall the man I love return, and find a villain unchastised, who in my sight presumptuous dared to wound his honour? It must not, shall not be. Re-enter Glanville with Rogozin. Glanville. Mark me, young sir, 'tis with authority that I forbid your entrance in this house. Siffroy, convinced of all your secret crimes with that vile wanton, spurns from his door the falsehood he disdains. Cleone. Let me not hear it. Am I a wanton? Does my dear lord think his Cleone vile? Glanville. He knows it well. Paulet. Villain, 'tis false. He scorns so mean a thought. Glanville. To silence every doubt, see his own hand. Paulet. Showing the letter to Rogozin. Say, whence is this? Who brought it? Rogozin. I brought it from my master. Glanville. Look upon it. Cleone and Paulet look over it. Cleone. Am I then banished from my husband's house, branded with infamy? Was once his wife. Unkind Siffroy, am I not still thy wife? Indeed, thy faithful wife.
And when thou knowest, as know thou wilt, how falsely I'm accused, this cruel sentence sure will pierce thy heart.
Poet. Amazement strikes me dumb. This impious scroll is forged. Siffroy, though rash, is noble, just, and good, too noble to permit so mean a thought to harbor in his breast.
Cleone. No, 'tis his hand, his seal, and can I bear suspicion? Ah, Siffroy, didst thou not know my heart incapable?
Poet. Licentious wretch! At what fell mischief has thy malice aimed?
Glanville.
At thine and her detection, which at length I have accomplished.
Poet.
Impudent and vain, think'st thou Cleone's virtue, her fair truth, can suffer taint from thy unhallowed breath? Were they not proof but now against thy arts?
Glanville.
Mistaken man! To gain one personal proof of her incontinence, that feigned attempt was made. All other proof I had before, and why I failed thou knowest. Who in her private chamber close concealed, madest it imprudent she should then comply.
Cleone. Detested slanderer! I despise thy baseness, disdain reply, and trust in heaven's high hand to dash thy bold designs.
Exit Cleone. Poet, whispering. Observe me, sir. This insult on the honor of my friend must be chastised. At morning's earliest dawn, in the close vale behind the castle's wall, prepare to meet me, armed.
Glanville.
Be well assured, I will not fail.
Exit Poet.
Yet stay, let prudence guide me. Courage, what is't? 'Tis folly's boisterous rashness, and draws its owner into hourly dangers. I hold it safer he were met tonight. Thou seest, my Ragozin, we are embarked upon a troubled sea. Our safeties now depend on boldly stemming every wave that might o'erwhelm our hopes. Poet must die. He's dangerous, and not only may defeat our enterprise, but bring our lives in hazard.
Ragozin. Shall we not frustrate thus your first design, to make the law subservient to your aims against the life and fortunes of Siffroy?
Glanville. Leave that to me. Siffroy, full well I know, will soon arrive. Thou, in the gloom of night, shall cast a veil upon the deeds of men, trace Poet's steps, and in his bosom plunge thy dagger's point. Thus shall thy care prevent his future babbling, and to prove the deed upon Siffroy be mine.
Ragozin. He dies this night.
Glanville. Let thy first blow make sure his death, so shall no noise detect thee. Hither straight convey his corpse, which secretly interred within the garden's bound prevents discovery, till I shall spring the mine of their destruction.
Ragozin. He shall not live an hour. Exit Ragozin.
Glanville. Hence, hence, remorse. I must not, will not feel thy scorpion sting. Yet hell is in my breast, and all its fiends distract my resolutions. I am plunged in blood, and must wade through. No safety now but on the farther shore. Come then, revenge, ambition come, and disappointed love. Be you my dread companions. Steel, oh steel my heart with triple firmness, nerve my arm with tenfold strength, and guide it to achieve the deeds of terror which yourselves inspired. End of Act 1. Recording by Joshua Seeger in Chicago. Act 2 of Cleone, a Tragedy by Robert Dodsley. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Joshua Seeger in Chicago. Act 2, Scene 1. A room in Siffroy's house. Glanville and Isabella. Glanville. Sure the dark hand of death ere this hath closed the prying eyes of Polet, and secured our bold attempt from danger. But hast thou, free from suspicion, to Cleone's hand conveyed the letter forged against myself, pressing her instant flight, and branding me with black designs against her life? Isabella.
I have, pretending 'twas received from hands unknown. But lurks no danger here? Will not this letter, discovered after death, thy guilt betray?
Glanville. There am I guarded too. The deed once done, a deep enormous cavern in the wood receives her body, and forever hides. But she perused, thou sayest, the letter? Well, how wrought it? Say, this moment will she fly? Success in this, and all shall be our own. Isabella.
Silent she paused, and read it o'er and o'er. Then lifting up her eyes, "Forgive him, heaven," was all she said. But soon her rising fear resolved on quick escape. Suspicion, too, that all her servants are by thee corrupted, prompts her to fly alone, save with her child, the young Siffroy, whom clasping to her breast and bathing with a flood of tears, she means, safe from thy snares, to shelter with her father.
Glanville. Just as I hoped. Beneath the friendly gloom of Baden Wood, whose unfrequented shades they needs must pass to reach her father's house, I have contrived, and now ordain their fall. Kindly she plans her scheme, as though herself were my accomplice.
Isabella. As we parted, tears gushed from her eyes. She closely pressed my hand, and hesitating cried, "O Isabella, if 'tis not now too late, beware of Glanville." I scarce could hold from weeping.
Glanville. Fool! Root out that weakness which unfits the aspiring soul for great designs. But hush! Who's here? Enter Rogozin. Glanville. Say, quickly, is our first work achieved? Rogozin. Successfully, with 2 bold ruffians, whose assisting hands were hired to make the business sure. I traced his steps with care, and in the darksome path which leads beside the ruined abbey's wall, with furious onset suddenly attacked him. Instant he drew, and in my arm oblique fixed a slight wound, but my associates soon performed their office, and betwixt them borne I left him to an hasty burial, where you first directed. Glanville. We are then secure from his detection, and may now advance with greater safety. Oh, my Rogozin, but 1 step more remains, to plant our feet on this Siffroy's possessions, and methinks kind opportunity now points the path which leads us to our wish. Rogozin. Propose the means. Glanville. This hour, Cleone with her infant boy, borrowing faint courage from the moon's pale beam, prepares to seek the mansion of her father. Thou knowest the neighbouring wood through which they pass. Rogozin. I know each path and every brake. Glanville. There, hid in secret ambush, thou must intercept her journey. Rogozin.
And direct her to the world unknown.
Glanville. Thou readst my meaning right. Go thou to hasten her departure, and to keep her fears awake. Isabella.
Already she believes her life depends upon her instant flight.
Exit Isabella. Glanville. And haply ours. Each moment that she lives grows dangerous now, and should she reach her father, all may be lost. Let therefore no delay hang on thy footsteps. Terror wings her flight. Our danger calls at least for equal speed. Rogozin.
Escape me not. I know the private path they needs must tread through Baden's lonesome wood, and death shall meet them in the dreary gloom.
Glanville. Meantime, soon as she leaves her house, I raise from whispering tongues a probable report that she with Paulet seeks some foreign shore. This will confirm her guilt, and shelter us from all suspicion. Rogozin.
True, both gone at once will give an air of truth so plausible.
Glanville. Hark, hush. Rogozin.
Who is it?
Glanville. 'Tis Cleone's voice. This way she comes. We must not now be seen. Fly to thy post, and think on thy reward. Exeunt. Enter Cleone with her child. Cleone.
No Paulet to be found. Misfortune sure prevents his friendship, and I dare not wait for his assistance. Friendless and alone I wander forth, heaven my sole guide, and truth my sole support. But come, my little love, thou wilt not leave me.
Child.
No, indeed I won't. I'll love you and go with you everywhere, if you will let me.
Cleone.
My sweet innocent, thou shalt go with me. I've no comfort left but thee. I had a husband once, and thou a father, but we're now cast out from his protection, banished from his love.
Child.
Why won't he love us? Sure I've heard you say you loved him dearly.
Cleone.
Oh, my bursting heart, his innocence will kill me. So I do, my angel, and I hope you'll love him too.
Child.
Yes, so I will, if he'll love you. And can't I make him love you?
Cleone.
Yes, my dear, for how could he withstand that sweet persuasive look of infant innocence?
Child.
Oh, then he shall. If ever I do see him, he shall love you.
Cleone.
My best, my only friend, and wilt thou plead thy poor wronged mother's cause?
Enter Isabella. Isabella.
Dear madam, haste. Why thus delay your flight when dangers rise around?
Cleone.
Indeed, my steps will linger, Isabella. Oh, 'tis hard. Alas, thou canst not tell how hard it is to leave a husband's house so dearly loved. Yet go I must. My life is here unsafe. Pardon, good heaven, the guilt of those who seek it. I fear not death, yet fain methinks would live to clear my truth to my unkind Siffroy.
Isabella.
Oh, doubt not, madam, he will find the truth, and banish from his breast this strange suspicion. But haste, dear lady, wing your steps with haste, lest death should intercept.
Cleone.
And must I go? Adieu, dear mansion of my happiest years. Adieu, sweet shades, each well-known bower adieu, where I have hung whole days upon his words, and never thought the tender moments long. All my hopes of future peace, farewell.
Throws herself on her knees.
But, O great power, who bending from thy throne look'st down with pitying eyes on erring man, whom weakness blinds and passions lead astray, impute not to Siffroy this cruel wrong. O heal his bosom, wounded by the darts of lying slander, and restore to him that peace which I must never more regain.
Rises.
Come, my dear love, heaven will, I trust, protect and guide our wandering steps. Yet stay, who knows, perhaps my father too, if slander's voice hath reached his ear, may chide me from his door, or spurn me from his feet. My sickening heart dies in me at that thought, yet surely he will hear me speak. A parent, sure, will not reject his child unheard.
Isabella.
He surely will not. Whence these groundless fears?
Cleone.
Indeed, I am to blame, to doubt his goodness. Farewell, my friend. And oh, when thou shalt see my still beloved Siffroy, say I forgive him. Say I but live to clear my truth to him. Then hope to lay my sorrows in the grave, and that my wrongs, lest they should wound his peace, may be forgotten.
Exit Cleone with her child. Isabella.
Gracious heaven, her grief strikes through my heart. Her truth, her innocence are surely wronged. Oh, wherefore did I yield my virtue to this man? Unhappy hour! But 'tis too late, nor dare I now relent.
Enter Glanville. Glanville. The gate is closed against her. Nevermore, if right I read her doom, to give her entrance. Thus far, my Isabella, our designs glide smoothly on. The hand of prudence is to me the hand of providence. Isabella.
Alas, how blind, how impotent is human prudence! I wish and hope indeed that screened beneath the shades of night, which hide these darker deeds, we too may lie concealed. But my hopes are dashed with fear, lest heaven's all-piercing eye that marks our covert guilt should flash detection.
Glanville, sternly. If thy vain fears betray us not, we're safe. Observe me well. Had I the least surmise that, struck by conscience or by phantoms awed, thou now wouldst shrink, and leave me or betray, by all the terrors that would shake my soul to perpetrate the deed, thou too shouldst fall.
Isabella. And canst thou then suspect that after all I've done to prove my love, I should betray thee? O Glanville, thou art yet, it seems, to learn that in her fears the weak a woman's love inspires her soul to dare beyond her sex.
Glanville. Forgive me, Isabella. I suspect thee not. This raging fever in my brain distracts my reason. But no more. I know thee faithful, and will hence be calm.
Isabella. Indeed, my heart has been so wholly thine, that even its springs are tempered to thy wish.
Glanville. Think on my warmth no more. I was to blame. But come, my love, our chief, our earliest care must be to give loud rumour instant voice, that both detected in their loose amour are fled together. Whisper thou the tale, first to the servants in whose listening ears suspicions are already sown, while I the unwelcome tidings to her sire convey. Exit Isabella one way, and as Glanville is going out the other, he meets a servant. Servant. My lady's brother, sir, young Beaufort, just arrived, inquires for you, or for his sister. Glanville. Attend him in. The letters of Siffroy have reached their hands. My story of her flight will, like a closing witness well prepared, confirm her guilt. Enter Beaufort, Jr. Beaufort, Jr. What strange suspicion, Glanville, has possessed the bosom of Siffroy? Whence had it birth, or on what ground could malice fix her stand to throw the darts of slander on a name so guarded as Cleone's? Glanville. I could wish, it gives me pain to speak, but I could wish the conduct of Cleone had not given so fair a mark. Beaufort, Jr. So fair a mark? What? Who? Cleone, sayest thou? Hath my sister given so fair a mark to slander? Have a care. The breath that blasts her fame may raise a storm not easily appeased. Glanville. It grieves me, sir, that you compel me to disclose what you in bitterness of soul must hear, but she and Prudence have of late been much estranged. Beaufort, Jr. Defame her not. Discretion crowns her brow, and in her modest eye sweet innocence smiles on detraction. Where is my sister? She shall confront thy words. Her look alone shall prove her truth, and calumny confound. Glanville. You surely know not, sir, that she is fled. Beaufort, Jr. What sayest thou? Fled. Surprise chokes up my words. It cannot be. Fled. Whither? Gone. With whom? Glanville. With Paulet, sir, Siffroy's young friend. Beaufort, Jr. Impossible. I'm on the rack. Tell, I conjure thee, tell the whole mysterious tale. Where are they gone? Glanville. That they conceal. I only know that both, soon as they found their impious love disclosed, with instant speed withdrew, and 'tis supposed will seek for shelter on some foreign shore. Beaufort, Jr. Where then is truth, and where is virtue fled, erewhile her dear companions? How, my sister, how art thou fallen? Thy father too, O parricide! Hadst thou no pity on his bending age, on his fond heart? Too feeble now to bear so rude a shock? Glanville. Can it not be concealed? Beaufort, Jr. That hope were vain. Himself impatient comes from his loved daughter to inquire the cause of this opprobrious charge. And see, he's here. Enter Beaufort, Sr. Beaufort, Sr. Where is my daughter? Where my injured child? Oh, bring me to her. She hath yet a father, thanks to the gracious powers who spared my life for her protection. ready to receive with tender arms his child, though rudely cast from her rash husband's door. What mean these tears that trickle down thy cheek? She is not dead? Beaufort, Jr. Good heaven! What shall I say? No, sir, not dead. She is not dead. But oh! Beaufort, Sr. But what? Wound not my heart. Where is she? Lead me to my child. 'Tis from herself alone that I will hear the story of her wrongs. Beaufort, Jr. Alas, dear sir, she is not here. Beaufort, Sr. Not here? Beaufort, Jr. Oh, fortify your heart, my dearest father, to support, if possible, this unexpected stroke. My sister, sir, why must I speak her shame? My wretched sister, yielding to the lure of Paulet's arts, hath left her husband's house. Beaufort, Sr. Great power! Then have I lived, alas, too long? This is indeed too much. I cannot bear, but 'tis impossible. Does not thy heart, my son, bear testimony for thy sister against this calumny? What circumstance? To Glanville. What proof have we of my Cleone's guilt? Glanville. Is not their disappearing both at once a strong presumption of their mutual guilt? Beaufort, Sr. Presumption, sayest thou? Shall one doubtful fact arraign a life of innocence unblamed? Shall I give up the virtue of my child, my heart's sweet peace, the comfort of my age, on weak surmises? Sir, I must have proof, clear, unambiguous proof, not dark presumption. Glanville. Thus rudely urged, my honor bids me speak. What else I meant in tenderness to spare, know then I found the wanton youth concealed in her apartments. Beaufort, Sr. Thou dost then confess thyself my child's accuser? But thy word will not suffice. Far other evidence must force me to believe that truth long known and native modesty could thus at once desert their station in Cleone's breast. Glanville. Wait then for other evidence. With such as doubt my honor, I disdain all further conference. Exit Glanville. Beaufort, Jr. What can we think? His firm, undaunted boldness fills my breast with racking doubts that dread to be resolved. Yet this suspense is torture's keenest pang. Beaufort, Sr. We must not bear it. No, my son, lead on. We must be satisfied. Let us direct our steps to Paulet's habitation. There, it seems, we must inquire. And yet my soul strongly impels me to suspect this Glanville. For can Cleone, virtue's favourite ward, thus totally be changed? If thou art fallen, if thy weak steps, by this bad world seduced, have devious turned into the paths of shame, never, never let me live to hear thy foul dishonour mentioned. If thou art traduced, and my fond heart still flatters me with hope, then, gracious heaven, spare yet my life, O spare a father to redress his child. End of Act 2. Recording by Joshua Seeger in Chicago. Act 3 of Cleone, a Tragedy by Robert Dodsley. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Joshua Seeger in Chicago. Act 3, Scene 1. The area before Siffroy's house. Siffroy alone. Siffroy. O dreadful change! My house, my sacred home, at sight of which my heart was wont to bound with rapture, I now tremble to approach. Fair mansion, where bright honour long hath dwelt with my renowned progenitors, how, at last, hath vile pollution stained thy walls! Yet look not down with scorn, ye shades revered, on your dishonoured son. He will not die till just revenge hath by the wanton's blood atoned for this disgrace. Yet can it be? Can my Cleone, she whose tender smile fed my fond heart with hourly rapture, she on whose fair faith alone I built all hope of happiness, can she have killed my peace, my honour? Could that angel form, which seemed the shrine of purity and truth, become the seat of wantonness and perfidy? Ye powers, should she be wronged, in my own heart how sharp a dagger hath my frenzy plunged. O passion-governed slave, what hast thou done? Hath not thy madness from her house unheard driven out thy bosom friend? Guiltless, perhaps? Hell is in that thought, thou wretch accursed. Such thy rash fury, thy unbridled rage, her guilt or innocence alike to thee must bring distraction. But I'll know the worst. Exit. Scene 2. Changes to a room in the house. Glanville and Isabella. Glanville. What dost thou say? Already is Siffroy arrived? Who saw him? When? Isabella. This moment. From my window, by the glimmering of the moon, I saw him pass. Glanville. He comes as I could wish. His hot-brained fury well did I foresee would, on the wings of vengeance, swiftly urge his homeward flight. But I am ready armed, rash fool, for thy destruction, and though long thou hast usurped my rights, thy death at last shall give me ample justice. Isabella. Ah, beware, nor seek his life at peril of thine own. Glanville. Trust me, my love, though time too precious now permits not to unfold to thee my scheme. I walk in safety, yet have in my grasp secure his hated life. But see, he comes. Retire. Exit Isabella. Enter Siffroy. Glanville, advancing to embrace him. My honored friend. Siffroy. Glanville, forbear, and ere I join my arms with thee in friendship, say, I conjure thee, by that sacred tie, by all thou hold'st most dear on earth, by all thy hopes of heaven and dread of deepest hell, hast thou not wronged my wife? Glanville. Unjust Siffroy! Hath my warm friendship thus regardful been, thus jealous of thy honor, and dost thou yet question mine? Sure the united bonds of friendship and of blood are ties too strong to leave a doubt of my sincerity. And soon too clearly, sir, you will discern who has been false, and who your faithful friend. Siffroy. O rack me not! Let dread conviction come. Her strongest horrors cannot rend my heart with half the anguish of this torturing doubt. Speak then, for though the tale should fire my brain to madness, I must hear. Yet, Glanville, stay. Let me proceed with caution. My soul's peace depends on this event. 'Tis said I am rash. Bear witness. Am I so? Where is my wife? Severe I may be, but I will be just. I cannot, will not hear her faith arraigned before I see her. Glanville. See her, sir? Alas, where will you see her? Siffroy. Where? Thou hast not yet conveyed her to her father? On the wings of speed I flew, still hoping to prevent the rash decree of unreflecting rage. Glanville. Heaven give thee patience. O Siffroy, my heart, though thou hast wronged it with unkind suspicion, bleeds for thy injuries, for thy distress. The wife whom thou so tenderly hast loved is fled with Paulet. Siffroy. Fled? How? Whither? When? Glanville. This day they disappeared, and 'tis believed intend to fly from shame and leave the land. Siffroy. Impossible! She cannot be so changed. Was she not all my heart could wish? Take heed. Once more I charge thee, Glanville, and my soul's eternal welfare rests upon thy truth. Traduce her not, nor drive me to perdition, for by the flames of vengeance, if I find thy accusation true, they shall not scape. Yes, I will trace the adulterer's private haunts, rush like his evil genius on their shame, and stab the traitor in her faithless arms. Almighty power, whose piercing eye explores the depths of falsehood, take not from my arm this due revenge, nor tempt mankind to doubt the justice of thy ways. Why this intrusion? Enter a servant. Servant. My lady's father, sir. Siffroy. Her father here? Glanville. Yes, he was here before. Thy letters brought him, and hence went forth in haste to find out Paulet. Siffroy. Conduct him in. Exit servant. Unhappy man! His grief, his venerable tears will wring my heart. Retire, good Glanville. Interviews like these, of deep-felt mutual woe, all witness shun. Exit Glanville. Enter Beaufort Senior. Beaufort Senior. Rash man, what hast thou done? On what surmise dost thou impeach the honor of my name, sacred through many an age from every stain? Oh, thou hast from thy bosom cast away the sweetest flower that ever nature formed. Siffroy. Reproach me not. Commiserate a wretch on whom affliction lays her iron hand. That flower which looked so beauteous to the sense ran wild, grew ranker than a common weed. Beaufort Senior. It is not, cannot be. Have I not known, even from her earliest childhood, known her heart, known it the seat of tenderness and truth? Her thoughts were ever pure as virgin snows from heaven descending, and that modest blush displayed on her fair cheek was virtue's guard. She could not fall thus low. My child is wronged. Ask thine own heart. Recall her blameless life. Was she not all a parent's fondest wish? Siffroy. Call not to my distracted mind how good, how bright she once appeared. Time was, indeed, when blessed in her chaste love, I fondly thought my soul possessed of all that earth held fair and amiable. But memory of past bliss augments the bitter pangs of present woe. Is she not changed, fallen, lost? Beaufort Senior. Patience, my son. Compose the tempest of thy grief. Just heaven will doubtless soon reveal the hidden deeds of guilt and shame. If thy unhappy wife thus wanton in the paths of vice hath strayed, I would not rashly curse my darling child. Yet hear me, righteous heaven. May infamy, disease, and beggary embitter all her wretched life. But my undoubting heart, in full conviction of her spotless truth, acquits her of all crime. Siffroy. Is it no crime that, listening to a vile seducer's voice, she leaves her husband's house, her dearest friends, flies with her paramour to foreign climes, a willing exile? Damned adulteress! What, are these no crimes? Beaufort Senior. Suppress thy rage. They are. But is she guilty? Art thou well informed they went together? How doth it appear? Who saw them? Where? Alas! Thy headlong rage was too impatient to permit enquiry. Siffroy. Were they not missing both? Both at 1 hour? Say, for thou hast inquired, is Paulet found? Beaufort Senior. He is not. But my son, perhaps, whom zeal to clear a much-loved sister's injured fame eager impels to strictest inquisition, may bring some tidings. Siffroy. May kind heaven direct his steps where lurks their covert shame from day, and from my just revenge. Beaufort Senior. Still thy rage, with weak precarious inference, concludes their unproved guilt. Be calm, and answer me. Think'st thou thy wife, if bent on loose designs, would madly join an infant in her flight to impede her steps and aggravate her shame? Siffroy. Oh, my confusion! Where is my child? Alas, I had forgot the harmless innocent. Bring to my arms the poor deserted babe. He knows no crime, and guiltless of offense shall put his little hands into my breast and ease a father's bosom of its sorrows. Beaufort Senior. Unhappy man, that comfort is denied thee. Siffroy. What means my father? Speak. Yet, take heed. My heart already is too deeply pierced to bear another wound. What of my child? Beaufort Senior. That he's the partner of his mother's flight should calm, not raise the tempest of thy grief. For proves it not by consequence direct some secret injury, not guilt, hath driven my hapless daughter from her husband's roof? Siffroy. What injury, what crime could love like mine commit against her?
Was she not more dear, more precious to my heart than the warm flood which feeds its vital motion? Beaufort Senior. Even that love, if open to the tales of calumny, might wound her virtue with unjust suspicion. Besides, to rashness and credulity shadows are demons, and a weak surmise authentic proof. Who's her accuser? Siffroy. One whose taintless honor and unshaken truth have oft been tried, and ever stood approved. He, sir, whose friendship with reluctant grief at length disclosed my shame, was honest Glanville. Report from vulgar breath I had despised. Beaufort Senior. So may high heaven deal mercy to my child, as I believe him treacherous and base. Enter Beaufort Junior. Beaufort Senior. Here comes my son. What means this look of terror? Beaufort Junior. I fear, my father, some dread mischief. Ha! Is he returned? Now may the powers avert this dire suspicion that strikes through my heart. Tell, I conjure thee, tell me, where's my sister? Thou hast not murdered her? Siffroy. Good heaven, what means my brother's dreadful words? Murder my wife? Speak, quickly speak. My heart shrinks up with horror. Whence are thy apprehensions? Beaufort Senior. My dear son, keep not thy father on the rack of doubt, but speak thy fears. Beaufort Junior. What fate may have befallen my injured sister, heaven and thou best know. But Paulet, whom thy fierce revenge pursued, this night is murdered. Siffroy. Ha! What sayest thou? Paulet? Is Paulet dead? How knowest thou he is murdered? Beaufort Junior. In the dark path which to the cloister leads, his sword is found, and bloody marks appear that speak the deed too plain. Siffroy. But where's my wife? Was not she with him? Went they not together? Beaufort Junior. Together? No, the villain Glanville's false. My sister is traduced. Siffroy. False? Glanville false? What? Paulet murdered? And my wife traduced? Rack me, ye furies! Tear me joint from joint! Your pangs are nothing. I have done a deed no tortures can atone. Tremendous power, what tempest wrapped in darkness now prepares to burst on my devoted head? What crime unknown or unrepented points me out, the mark distinguished of peculiar vengeance? Why turns the gracious, all-benignant eye averse from me? O guide my steps to find where lurks this hidden mischief. Beaufort Junior. Lurks it not in thine own breast? Beaufort Senior. My son, forbear. Siffroy. Art thou, my brother, so unkind? Would I have stabbed thy heart when breaking with convulsive pangs of dreadful doubt? But I deserve unkindness. I was unkind, was cruel to Cleone, yet lead me to her arms. Though wronged, abused, she, like offended heaven, will still forgive. My friend, too, my best friend, is murdered. Oh, what hand accursed hath wrought this web of woe? Support me, mercy. 'Tis too much, too much. But let distraction come, and from my brain tear out the seed of memory, that I no more may think, no more may be a wretch. Beaufort Senior. Be calm, my son. When heaven's high hand afflicts, submission best becomes us, nor let man, the child of weakness, murmur. Siffroy. O my father, thee too my rashness hath undone. Thou wilt join with heaven to curse me, but I kiss the rod of chastisement, and in the dust resigned, a prostrate suppliant, beg for mercy. Beaufort Senior. Moderate the grief which thus unmans thee. Rouse thee to the search of these dark deeds, and heaven direct our footsteps. Hath not suspicion whispered to thy heart that he, this Glanville, whom thy friendship trusts with confidence entire, may yet be false? Siffroy. Till this dread hour, suspicion of his truth ne'er touched my breast. Now doubt and horror raise distraction in my soul.
Beaufort Senior. O gracious power, look on our sorrows with a pitying eye. My feeble heart sinks in me, but do thou bear up against this tide of woe. I trust if goodness dwell in heaven, my child is safe. Perhaps she seeks the shelter of these arms, and we have missed her in the entangled wood. With speed dispatch immediate messengers through different paths, with strictest search to trace Cleone's steps, or find thy murdered friend. My son, I charge thee, see this well performed. Beaufort Jr. I will not fail. Exit Beaufort Jr. Beaufort Sr. Meanwhile, let us observe each motion, word, and look of this fell fiend. So may we best detect him, and his schemes, though glossed with saint-like show, if much I err not, will soon in all their horrors stand revealed. Exeunt. Scene 3. Changes to the wood. Enter Cleone and her child. Cleone. Whence do these terrors seize my sinking heart? Since guilt I know not, wherefore know I fear? And yet these silent shadowy scenes awake strange apprehensions. Guardian powers, protect my weakness. Hark! What noise is that? All still, it was but fancy. Yet methought the howl of distant wolves broke on the ear of night, doubling the desert's horror. Child. Oh, I am frightened. Why do you speak and look so strangely at me? Cleone. I will not fright, my love. Come, let's go on. We've but a little way. Save us, ye powers. Enter Rogozin with a dagger and a mask on. Cleone flies with her child. He follows. Rogozin. Stop, for thou fliest in vain. Cleone, within the scenes. Help! Mercy, save! Kill not my infant! Murder! Oh, my child! She retreats back to the scene and falls in a swoon. Re-enter Rogozin. Rogozin. She too is dead. I feared that blow was short. But hark, what noise! I must not be detected. No time to bury him now. Be that his care. Exit. Cleone, waking from her trance. Where have I been? What horrid hand hath stamped this dreadful vision on my brain? O death, have I not gained thy mansions? Am I still in this bad world? What ails my heart, my head? Was not my child here with me? Sure he was. And some foul demon terrifies my soul with fears of murder. Gracious heaven forbid! Conduct my steps, kind Providence, to where my little wanderer strays, that I may know this horror in my mind is but a dream. Exit. Scene 4. Changes to an adjoining part of the wood, and discovers the child murdered. Enter Cleone. Cleone. O fearful silence! Not a sound returns, save the wild echoes of my own sad cries to my affrighted ear. My child, my child! Where art thou wandered? Where beyond the reach of thy poor mother's voice? Yet while above the God of justice dwells, I will not deem the bloody vision true. Heaven hath not left me. Their truth is known, well known, and see my love. See where upon the bank its wearied limbs lie stretched in sleep, O agony! Blast not my senses with a sight like this. 'Tis blood, 'tis death. My child is murdered. Falls down by her child, kissing it and weeping, then raising herself on her arm, after a dead silence, and looking by degrees more and more wild, she proceeds in a distracted manner. Hark! Hark! Lie still, my love. For all the world, don't stir. 'Tis Glanville, and he'll murder us. Stay, stay, I'll cover thee with boughs. Don't fear. I'll call the little lambs, and they shall bring their softest fleece to shelter thee from cold. There, lie close. He shall not see.
No, no, I'll tell him 'tis an angel I have hid. She rises up. Where is he? Soft. He's gone, my love, and shall not murder thee. Poor innocent, 'tis fast asleep. Well thought. I'll steal away now while he slumbers, pick wild berries for him, and bring a little water in my hand. Then, when he wakes, we'll seat us on the bank and sing all night.
End of Act 3. Recording by Joshua Seeger in Chicago. Act 4 of Cleone, a Tragedy by Robert Dodsley. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Joshua Seeger in Chicago. Act 4, Scene 1. A room in Siffroy's house. Glanville and Isabella. Glanville. Betrayed? By whom betrayed? By thy vain fear. How cursed is he who treads on danger's path, entangled with a woman. Fool, alone I had been safe. Isabella.
Yet hear me. On my life no word from me hath scaped. We may perchance be yet secure.
Glanville. Perchance? And do our lives depend on fickle chance? But speak, proceed. Whence are thy fears? Isabella.
In close concealment hid, this moment I o'erheard a whispered scheme of seizing thee.
Glanville. Confusion. Can it be? Can Rogozin the villain have betrayed me? Isabella.
I fear he hath. Where is he?
Glanville. Not returned from Baden Wood to ascertain the deed that crowns our business. Were but that secure, my tortured soul, torn on the rack of doubt, might yet feel peace. How wears the time? Isabella.
2 hours are wanting yet to midnight.
Glanville. Where's Siffroy? Isabella.
With Beaufort, but perplexing doubts distract his reason, that all power to act forsakes him. Still farther to alarm, deep stained with gore, the sword of Paulitz found, and other marks that speak him murdered.
Glanville. That's beyond my wish, and tells but what I wanted to proclaim. Isabella.
Proclaim? What mean'st thou? Doth it not conduce to our detection? Doth it not confirm their dark suspicions?
Glanville. The short line, alas, of thy weak thought in vain would sound the depth of my designs. But rest thee well assured, I have foreseen and am prepared to meet all possible events. Isabella.
O grant, good heaven, great God, how dreadful 'tis to be engaged in what we dare not pray that heaven may prosper.
Glanville. Curse on thy boding tongue. Let me not hear its superstitious weakness. Hush! Who comes? No more. 'Tis Rogozin. Now sleep distrust. First let me learn if he hath done the deed. If not, I am betrayed, and will awake in vengeance on his falsehood. Enter Rogozin. Glanville. Speak, my friend. Cleone and her child. Say quickly, how disposed? Rogozin. To heaven removed. No longer they obstruct our views on earth. Glanville. Speak plainly. Are they dead? Rogozin. Both dead. Glanville. Swear. Swear to this, and by all hope of that reward which urged thee to the deed, swear thou hast not betrayed me. Rogozin. Whence arise these base suspicions? I disdain that crime. Though branded with the name of an assassin, I am not yet so mean as to betray. Glanville. Distraction! May I trust thee? Rogozin. As thou wilt. Glanville, pausing. It must be so. We still are safe, and this pretense of strong suspicion is no more than subtle artifice, contrived to draw the unwary to confession. Rogozin. 'Tis no more. Glanville. Nor will I more than with a just contempt regard it. All our deeds of blood are done. What now remains the law shall execute. Rogozin. What's thy intent? Glanville. The thrust thus aimed at me shall deeply pierce Siffroy's unguarded bosom, thy aid once more as witness to his threats. Rogozin. Freely I would, but safety now requires that I abscond. The stipulated sum, forgive me therefore, if I claim this night. Glanville. 'Tis thine. But hark, retire, I hear his step. One moment wait. At his return, 'tis thine. Rogozin. Aside. Cursed chance! Were I possessed of my reward, who might wait thee now? Nor will I more than some short moments rest unsatisfied. Exit. Enter Siffroy. Siffroy, not seeing Glanville. O happiness! Thou frail, thou fading flower, whose culture mocks all human toil, farewell! But I, blind madman, by the roots have plucked thy sweetness from my bosom. My dear love, where wanders now thy wronged, thy helpless virtue? On what cold stone reclines thy drooping head, while trickling tears call thy Siffroy inhuman? Deluded wretch, why did my greedy ear catch the rank poison of suspicion's breath, and to my tortured brain convey distraction? Glanville, advancing to him. Are thus my faithful services repaid? Are the plain truths my undisguising heart in friendship told already deemed no more than vile suggestions of designing falsehood? Siffroy. Villain, they are. Thou knowest them false as hell. Where is my wife? O traitor, thou hast plunged my soul into perdition. Glanville. Rather say that he who led astray the willing wife thy folly dotes on, he. Siffroy. Blasphemer! Stop thy impious tongue. The breast of that dear saint enshrines a soul as spotless as her form. Saidst thou not, slanderer, that my love was fled with Paulet? Glanville. True, I did. Siffroy. Art thou not sure that this is false? Hast thou no dreadful cause to know it cannot be? Glanville. None. Thou, perhaps, whose bloody errand I indeed have heard already is accomplished, thou, 'tis true, mayst know that they are parted. 'Twas the deed thou flewest thus swiftly to perform, but how doth that impeach the truth of her elopement? That thou hast murdered him acquits not her. Siffroy. That I have murdered? I? Pernicious wretch! What dark design, by blackest fiends inspired, lurks in thy treacherous soul? Tremendous power, have I then sinned beyond all hope of mercy? Must the deep phial of thy vengeance, poured on my devoted head, be poured from him? But all thy ways are just. To him I gave that credit which I owed my injured love. He now, by thy supreme decree, stands forth the avenger of my crime. Enter Beaufort Senior, officers, etc. Beaufort Senior. Seize there your victim. Glanville. What means this outrage? Upon what pretense? Beaufort Senior. The bloody hand of murder points out thee to strong suspicion. Turn'st thou pale? O wretch, thy guilt drinks up thy blood. Glanville. Not guilt, but rage. Who dares accuse me? Beaufort Senior. I. Where's Paulet? Where my daughter, who thou basely saidst were fled together? Glanville. That his poniard found the way to part their steps impeaches not my truth. Beaufort Senior. His poniard? Glanville. His. I should have scorned to charge the man, whose honor I think deeply wronged, but my own life attempted thus demands that truth should rise to light. Camest thou not here driven by the fury of a dire revenge? What other motive urged thy desperate haste? Siffroy. Insidious slave! Hast thou ensnared my soul by treacherous arts? Hast thou with falsehood vile inflamed this hapless breast? And wouldst thou now infer my guilt from my provoked resentment? Glanville. Leaned I on feeble inference, I would ask, what cause have I to seek this Paulet's blood? 'Twas not my wife, my daughter, he seduced. How has he injured me? But I reject these trivial pleas. I build on certain proof. Beaufort Sr. What proof? Glanville. The strongest, his own hand and seal, fixed to the firm resolve that he alone, showing the letter, would do the righteous deed, for so his rage calls Paulet's murder. Beaufort Sr. Ha! What can I think, unhappy man, and hast thou too the crime of rash suspicion added that of murder? Siffroy. My father, hear thy son. I plead not for my life, but justice, that I am a wretch, groaning beneath the weight of heaven's just ire, that snared and caught in meditated wiles I banished from my house a guiltless wife, that burning with revenge I flew to quench my wrath in Paulet's blood. All this I own, but by the sacred eye of Providence, that views each human step and still detects the murderer's deed, of this imputed crime my heart is ignorant, my hands are clear. Beaufort Sr. I wish thee innocent. Glanville. Have then my words no weight? And is his own attesting hand no proof against him? Is her secret flight an accident? No more, O partial man. To hide thy daughter's shame thou seek'st my life, but I appeal from thee to public justice. Beaufort Sr. To that thou art consigned, and may the hand of strict enquiry drag to open day all secret guilt, though shame indelible should brand a daughter nearest to my heart. Heaven aid my search. I seek not blood, but truth. Guard safe your prisoner to the magistrate. I'll follow you. The justice thou demand'st, thou shalt not want. Glanville. 'Tis well. I ask no more. Let Ragozin, let Isabella too attend the magistrate. On them I call to clear my slandered name. Beaufort Sr. It shall be so. Take them this instant to your strictest care. Thou too, Siffroy, be ready to attend. Siffroy. O think not I will leave him, till full proof condemn him or acquit. Beaufort Sr. The cause demands it. Exeunt officers with Glanville guarded. Siffroy. Whence has the miscreant this unusual firmness? Can guilt be free from terror? Beaufort Sr. No, my son, and through the mask of smooth hypocrisy, methinks I see concealed a trembling heart. If he be true, my daughter must be false. If he be guiltless, who hath murdered Paulet? Siffroy. There, thank heaven. My hands are innocent, but, O my love, conduct me where she strays, forlorn and comfortless. Alas, who knows? Her tender heart perhaps this moment breaks with my unkindness. Wretch, what hast thou lost? Enter Beaufort Jr. Beaufort Jr. Thy soul's sweet peace, never, no never more, to be regained. Shame, anguish, and despair shall haunt thy future hours. Severe remorse shall strike his vultured talons through thy heart and rend thy vital threads. Beaufort Sr. What means my son? Siffroy. My brother, if I may conjure thee yet by that dear name. Beaufort Jr. Thou mayest not. I disclaim it. Siffroy. Why dost thou still alarm my shuddering soul with rising terrors? Beaufort Sr. My dear son, relieve thy father from this dread suspense. Beaufort Jr. O sir, how shall I speak, or in what words unfold the horrors of this night? My sister, lost to her wretched self, through dreary wilds wanders distracted, void of reason's light to guide her devious feet. Beaufort Sr. Support me, heaven. Then every hope is fled. Thy will be done. Where is my child? Where was she found? Beaufort Jr. Alas, of soul too delicate, too soft to bear unjust reproach and undeserved shame, distraction seized her in the gloom of night, as passing through the wood she sought the arms of a protecting father. Siffroy. Do I live? Is such a wretch permitted still to breathe? Why opens not this earth? Why sleeps above the lightning's vengeful blast? Is heaven unjust?
or am I still reserved for deeper woe? I hope not mercy, that were impious. Pour then on my bare head, ye ministers of wrath, your hottest vengeance.
Beaufort, Jr. Stop, forbear, nor imprecate that vengeance which unseen already hangs o'er thy devoted life. Thou knowest not yet the measure of thy woe. Thy child, thy lovely babe, a bloody corpse, lies breathless by his frantic mother's side, much to be feared, by her own hand destroyed, when reason in her brain had lost dominion. Siffroy. My child too gone, then misery is complete. O my torn heart, is there in heaven no pity? None, none for me. The wrongs of all I loved, to heaven ascending, bar the eternal gates, and close the ear of mercy 'gainst my prayer. But fate's last bolt is thrown, and I am cursed beyond all power to sharpen torture's pang. Yes, I am scorned, abandoned, and cast out by heaven and earth. I must not call thee father. I have undone thee, robbed thee of the name, and now myself am childless and undone. Beaufort, Sr. Forbear, my son, to aggravate thy grief, already too severe. Kind Providence may yet restore and harmonize her mind. Siffroy. May heaven pour blessings on thy reverend head for that sweet hope. But say, where shall I see her? How bear the dreadful sight? Beaufort, Jr. Dreadful indeed. On the cold earth they found her laid, her head supported on her arm, hung o'er her child, the image of pale grief, lamenting innocence. Sometimes she speaks fond words, and seems to smile on the dead babe as 'twere alive. Now, like the melancholy bird of night, she pours a soft and melting strain, as if to soothe its slumbers, and now clasps it to her breast, cries, Glanville is not here. Fear not, my love, he shall not come. Then wildly throws her eyes around, and in the tenderest accent calls aloud on thee, to save her from dishonor. Siffroy. Haste, let us haste. Distracted thus, she grows still dearer, still more precious to my soul. O let me soothe her sorrows into peace. Beaufort, Sr. Stay, calls she frequently on Glanville's name? Beaufort, Jr. So they report who found her. Beaufort, Sr. Left they her alone? Beaufort, Jr. No, but all arts to court her thence were vain. Beaufort, Sr. Thither with speed this moment let us fly. Let Glanville too attend. From the wild words of madness and delirium, he who struck from darkness light may call discovery forth to guide our footsteps. Beaufort, Jr. Just as your resolve, and I will follow you, but have received intelligence of Paulet that imports us. Siffroy. Of Paulet, of my friend. What may it be? Beaufort, Jr. As yet I'm ignorant. Beaufort, Sr. To gain us light. Be no means left untried. Exit Beaufort, Jr. Siffroy. But haste, we linger. Yet whither can I fly? Where seek for peace? In its most tender vein my heart is wounded. Had I been smote in any other part, I could have borne with firmness. But in thee, my wronged, my ruined love, I bleed to death. Exeunt. End of Act 4. Recording by Joshua Seeger in Chicago. Act 5 of Cleone, a Tragedy by Robert Dodsley. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Joshua Seeger in Chicago. Act 5, Scene 1. The Wood. Cleone is discovered sitting by her dead child, over whom she hath formed a little bower of shrubs and branches of trees. She seems very busy in picking little sprigs from a bough in her hand. Cleone sings. Sweeter than the damask rose was his lovely breast, There, oh, let me there repose, sigh, sigh, and sink to rest. Did I not love him? Who can say I did not? My heart was in his bosom, but he tore it out and cast it from him. Yet I loved, and he more lovely seemed to that fond heart than the bright cherub sailing on the skirts of yonder cloud, the inhabitant of heaven. Enter Siffroy, Beaufort Senior, Isabella, Glanville, Rogozin, officers, etc. Beaufort Senior. This is the place, and see my hapless child. Why, gracious heaven, why have I lived to feel this dreadful moment? Soft, I pray, tread, and let us well observe her speech and action. Siffroy. Have I done this, and do I live? My heart drops blood, but to thy guidance I will bend, and in forced silence smother killing grief. Glanville, aside. Didst thou not tell me, villain, she was dead? Rogozin, aside. I was deceived. By heaven, I thought her so. Glanville, aside. May hell reward thee. Beaufort Senior. Stay, she rises. Hush. Cleone. Soft, soft, he stirs. Oh, I have waked him, I have waked my child, and when false Glanville knows it, he again will murder him. Beaufort Senior. Mark that. Glanville. And are the words of incoherent madness to convict me? Siffroy. They are the voice of heaven, detecting murder. Yes, villain, thy infernal aim appears. Cleone. No, no, all still. As undisturbed he sleeps as the stolen infant rocked in the eagle's nest. I'll call the redbreast and the nightingale. Their pious bills once covered little babes, and sung their dying dirge. Again, sweet birds, again pour forth your melancholy notes, and soothe once more that innocence ye love. Siffroy. On that enchanting voice, how my fond heart hath hung with rapture! Now too deeply pierced, I die upon the sound. He advances towards her. My dearest love, behold thy own Siffroy, returned to calm thy griefs, and pour into thy wounded mind the healing balm of tenderness. Cleone, frighted and trembling. Sweet heaven, protect me! Oh, if you have pity, save my infant! Cast away that bloody steel, and on my knees I'll kiss the gentle hand that spared my child. Glanville shall never know but we are dead. In this lone wood we'll live, and I no more will seek my husband's house, and yet I never wronged him, never indeed. Siffroy. I know thou didst not. Look upon me, love. Dost thou not know me? I am thy Siffroy, thy husband. Do not break my heart. Oh, speak. That look will kill me. Beaufort Senior. My dear child, look up. Look on thy father. Am I too forgotten? Is every filial trace in thy poor brain defaced? She knows us not. May heaven, my son, lend thee its best support. For me, my days are few, nor can my sorrow's date be long protracted. Siffroy. Say not so. Must I become the murderer of all I hold most dear? Cleone. Yes, yes, a husband once, a father too I had, but lost, quite lost. Deep in my brain buried they lie, in heaps of rolling sand. I cannot find them. Siffroy. O heart-rending grief! How is that fair, that amiable mind disjointed, blasted by the fatal rage of one rash moment! She goes to her child. He follows. Let sweet pity veil the horrors of this scene from every eye. My child, hide, hide me from that sight! Turns away. Cleone.
Stay, stay, for you are good, and will not hurt my lamb. Alas, you weep. Why should you weep? I am his mother, yet I cannot weep. Have you more pity than a mother feels? But I shall weep no more. My heart is cold.
Siffroy, falling on his knees. O mitigate thy wrath, good heaven! Thou knowest my weakness. Lay not on thy creature more than he can bear. Restore her, O restore! But if it must not be, if I am doomed to stand a dreadful warning to deter frail man from sudden rage, Almighty power, then take, in mercy take, this wretched life. As he rises, Isabella comes forward and throws herself at his feet. Isabella.
Hear me, sir. My very heart is pierced, and my shocked soul, beneath a load of guilt, sinks down in terrors unsupportable. 'Tis heaven impels me to reveal the crimes in which a fatal passion has involved me. Protect me, save me from his desperate rage.
Glanville suddenly pulls out a short dagger which he had concealed in his bosom and attempts to stab her. One of the officers wrenches it from him. Beaufort Sr. Ha! Seize the dagger! Siffroy. Hold thy murderous hand! Rogozin, aside. All is betrayed. For me no safety now, but sudden flight. He endeavors to withdraw. Siffroy. Stop! Seize! Detain that slave! The attempt to fly bespeaks him an accomplice. He is seized by the officers. Isabella, to Glanville.
Tremble, O wretch! Thou seest that heaven is just, nor suffers even ourselves to hide our deeds. To death I yield, nor hope, nor wish for life. Permit me to reveal some dreadful truths, and I shall die content. Thy hapless wife, chaste as the purest angel of the sky, by Glanville is traduced, by him betrayed. Paulet is murdered, and by his device the lovely child, seduced by his vile arts, and by the flattering hopes of wealth ensnared. Distracting thought! I have destroyed my soul.
Beaufort Sr. Why so far from virtue didst thou stray, that to compassionate thy wretched fate almost is criminal? To Glanville. But canst thou bear? Can thy hard heart support this dreadful scene? Glanville. I know the worst, and am prepared to meet it. That wretch hath sealed my death, and had I but avenged her timorous perfidy, the rest I'd leave to fate, and neither should lament my own, nor pity yours. Siffroy. Inhuman savage! But justice shall exert her keenest scourge, and wake to terror thy unfeeling heart. Guard them to safe confinement. Killing sight! Behold that piteous object. Her dumb grief speaks to my heart unutterable woe. Horror is in her silence. He goes to her. My dear love, look upon me. Let these tears prevail, and with thy reason wake thy pity too. Cleone.
Again you weep. But had you lost a wife, as I a husband, you might weep indeed. Or had you lost so sweet a boy as mine, 'twould break your heart.
Siffroy. Her words are pointed steel. Have I not lost a wife? Lost a sweet boy? Indeed I have. Myself too murdered them. Cleone.
That was unkind. Why did you so? But hush! Let no one talk of murder. I was killed. My husband murdered me, but I forgave him.
Siffroy. I cannot bear. O torture, torture! Beaufort Sr. Collect thyself, and with the humble eye of patient hope, look up to heaven resigned. Siffroy. Hope! Where is hope? Alas, no hope for me. On downy pinions, lo, to heaven she flies, to realms of bliss, where I must never come. Terrors are mine, and from the depths below despair looks out and beckons me to sink. Beaufort Sr. Assuage thy grief.
Call reason to thy aid. Perhaps we yet may save her precious life. At least delay not, by some gentle means, to soothe her to return.
Siffroy. May soft persuasion dwell upon thy lips, but can tears or arguments avail, when reason marks not? Enter Beaufort Jr. Beaufort Jr. Where is my sister? Beaufort Sr.
Alas, the melancholy sight will pierce thy inmost soul, but do not yet disturb her. Distraction o'er her memory hangs a cloud that hides us from her.
Siffroy. My dearest brother, can thy heart receive the wretch who robbed it of his sister's love? Beaufort Jr. I do forgive thee all. Alas, my brother, most basely wert thou wronged, but truth is found. Paulet, though wounded, yet escaped with life. Siffroy. Then heaven is just, but tell me, how escaped? Beaufort Jr. Thou shalt know all, but stay, my sister speaks. Cleone, coming forward.
Oh, who hath done it? Who hath done this deed of death? My child is murdered, my sweet babe bereft of life. Thou, Glanville, thou art he, remorseless fiend, destroy a child, an infant. Monster, forbear. See, the little heart bleeds on his dagger's point.
Looking down to the earth.
But lo, the furies, the black fiends of hell hath seized the murderer. Look, they tear his heart, that heart which had no pity. Hark, he shrieks, his eyeballs glare, his teeth together gnash in bitterness of anguish, while the fiends scream in his frighted ear, Thou shalt not murder.
Beaufort Sr.
What dreadful visions terrify her brain? To interrupt her must relieve. Speak to her.
Siffroy. My dearest love, cast but one look upon us. Cleone, looking up to heaven.
Is that my infant? Whither do you bear my bleeding babe? Not yet, O mount not yet, ye sons of light, but take me on your wings with my sweet innocent. I come.
Her father and brother take hold of her.
Yet hold, where is my husband, my Siffroy? Will not he follow? Will he quite forsake his poor lost wife? O tell him I was true.
Swoons. Beaufort Sr.
Alas, she faints. I fear the hand of death is falling on her. Gently bear her up.
Siffroy. O God, my heartstrings break. Did not her dying words dwell on my name? Did not her latest sigh breathe tenderness for me? For me, the wretch, whose rash suspicion, whose intemperate rage abandoned her to shame. Ah, gracious heaven, does she not move? Does not returning light dawn in her feeble eye? Her opening lips breathe the sweet hope of life? Cleone.
Where have I been? What dreadful dreams have floated in my brain?
Beaufort Sr.
How fares my child?
Cleone.
Oh, faint, exceeding faint. My father, my dear father, do I wake? And am I in a father's arms? My brother too, oh, happy.
Beaufort Jr. My dear sister. Siffroy. Transporting rapture, will my love return to life, to reason too, indulgent power? Cleone.
What sound? What well-known voice is that I hear? Support me, raise me to his long-lost arms. It is my husband, my Siffroy, my love. Alas, too faint, I never more shall rise.
Siffroy. Ah, do not wound me, do not pierce my heart with any thought so dreadful. Art thou given in mockery only to my longing arms? Raise up thy head, my love, lean on my breast, and whisper to my soul thou wilt not die. Cleone.
how thy sweet accents soothe the pangs of death. Witness, ye angels, thus in thy dear arms to die, my faithful love, and spotless truth confirmed, was all my wish. Where is my father? Let me but take his blessings up to heaven, and I shall go with confidence.
Beaufort Senior. My child, my darling child, may that pure bliss just heaven bestows upon departed saints be thine.
Cleone. Farewell, my brother. Comfort and support our father's feeble age. To heal his grief will give thy sister's dying moments ease. Siffroy. Talk not of death. We must not part. Good heaven, her dying agonies approach. Cleone. The keenest pang of death is that I feel for thy surviving woe. Adieu, my love. I do entreat thee with my last breath, restrain thy tears, nor let me grieve to think thou feelest a pain I cannot live to cure. Siffroy. Mightst thou but live, how light were every pain fate could inflict. Cleone. It will not be. I faint. My spirits fail. Farewell. Receive me, heaven. Dies. Siffroy. She's gone. Forever gone. Those lovely eyes are closed in death, no more to look on me. My fate is fixed, and in this tortured breast anguish, remorse, despair must ever dwell. Beaufort Senior.
Offended power, at length with pitying eyes look on our misery. Cut short this thread that links my soul too long to wretched life.
And let mankind, taught by his hapless fate, learn one great truth experience finds too late, that dreadful ills from rash resentment flow, and sudden passions end in lasting woe.
Exeunt. The End.
End of Cleone, a Tragedy, by Robert Dodsley.